好，你可以帮我调一下。好，他这样看还是要再高一点。吴运东不来了，有笔吗？好，随便了，没关系了，就不用改了。可以好，吴运东不来。好，好，我看一下，好，没关系，这个我不用改哈。完了之后，对不对？然后呢，你看到他往那边走了，好，你就上来，整个不用再收了，整个这样拿走，小心。然后走这里。 开始讲，讲完之后，他会坐到那边。他上来的时候不用坐了，美方的部长会坐那，他上来这边直接讲，讲完之后，你看他讲完了，你们就有人慢慢走上来，不用急，好，他会就这边坐下，那你们就同个时间过来，把整个，然后拿走就好，慢一点不急，不用太急，尽量都不要因为我们都定好，因为到时候他是看读稿机的，在这里，他有改吗？整个你要拿的时候是整个一起拿走。OK， 我说这些大使都来了。我看一下哈 ，AIT， 好 ，Health， 对 ，Chairman，Ambassador， 哦，几位大使？是，我看，He wants to double check whether this is correct for investment. No, he's not coming, right? He didn't come. Yeah, that's right. Okay, press that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. OK， 对，都来了。OK， 就这样子。OK。那到时候你们就可以把这些东西弄上来。好，谢谢，谢谢。
CDC people all here?
Yeah, they're all here. Let me check.
We need to fill those seats if they're not here.
Changing channels, just to see if a different channel is better.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated and silence your cell phones. The event is about to begin. Masks must be worn through the event. 各位先生、各位女士，演讲即将开始，请大家就座，并请把手机关成静音模式。演讲过程需全程佩戴口罩。Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Chen Jianren, former Vice President of Taiwan, and Secretary Alex Azar of the United States Department of Health and Human Services. We now welcome Professor Chen to deliver welcoming remarks.
U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Alex Azar, Minister of Health and Welfare, Chen Shizhong, AIT Director, Brian Christensen, U.S. Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert Carter, AIT Chairman James Moriarty, Ambassador O'Cary, Ambassador Kiatu, Ambassador Edwards, Ambassador Kifas, and NTU Dean of Public Health Zheng Shouxia, and former Dean of Public Health Zhang Changquan, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my distinct honor to introduce a great friend of Taiwan, Secretary Alex Azar. Mr. Azar was sworn in as Secretary of Health and Human Services in January 2018. He has been a staunch supporter of Taiwan-US partnership and has consistently advocated for Taiwan's participation in the world stage. The Taiwan-US public health collaboration is a loyal partnership that has lasted for almost 40 years. I have personally experienced this friendship in 1982 when I had just returned to Taiwan from Johns Hopkins University. Back then, Taiwan had a major polio outbreak, and US CDC sent a team of experts to Taiwan and found our polio vaccine were not as effective as expected due to unsatisfactory storage condition. In 1983, based on the model of US CDC Epidemiological Intelligence Services, EIS, training program, our Department of Health established the field epidemiology training program and was also involved in the program as a lecturer for some courses. Participants trained by the program were able to conduct outbreak investigations, and this has in turn strengthened Taiwan's epidemiological intelligence capability. The program has become a popular model in Southeast Asia and even led to the creation of TEFNIT, the training program in epidemiology and public health intervention network. Later, in 2003, Taiwan had an outbreak of SARS. Mr. Tommy Thompson, who was then the US Secretary of Health and Human Services, sent a delegation of experts from US CDC, 24 in total, to help Taiwan fight the epidemic. We worked together, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, from morning till night. Mr. Thompson advised us to recruit a team of infectious disease physicians for epidemic control. I visited the US Department of Health and Human Services in late 2003, and Mr. Thompson showed me the Secretary Command Center, SCC. Shortly after returning from that trip, I established the Taiwan National Health Command Center, NHCC, which was activated as the Epidemic Control Center, Command Center when there was a COVID-19. I cannot agree more when former President Chen Shui-bian pointed out that in addition to warmly welcome Secretary Azar, we also have to have Secretary Thompson to thank for. In recent years, Taiwan and AIT co-hosted many public health-related workshop sessions under the Global Cooperation and Training Framework, GCTF. This is a great demonstration of the fact that Taiwan can help and Taiwan is helping. We are devoted to promoting global health, and we are fulfilling our responsibility as a good member of the world village. After the SARS outbreak was completely controlled in Taiwan, we amended the Communicable Disease Control Act, restructured both Department of Health and CDC, bolstered infection control capability of medical institutions, and established a communicable disease medical center. We also prepared an adequate stock of PPE, trained epidemic prevention personnel, strengthened surveillance on international epidemic events, and tightened border control measures. All this effort laid a great foundation for us to kick-start early response to COVID-19 pandemic end of last year. As nicely put my colleague at the Taiwan CDC, Taiwan has been preparing for 17 years to achieve success in the fight against the COVID-19, and I would like to add to add that we thank US CDC for working together when there's a SARS outbreak in year 2003. In a vibrant democracy like Taiwan, successful containment of the COVID-19 virus relies on transparent and open policies that could build up public trust in each central epidemic command center. A nation is able to control the pandemic only when all members of the society are fully engaged in epidemic containment. I'm grateful for the people of Taiwan for their full compliance with government's guidance and regulation in border quarantine, personal hygiene, social distancing, and home quarantine. Their cooperation allowed Taiwan to stay away from the threat of large-scale local transmission. We often say that in Taiwan, there are 23 million unsung heroes. They quietly contribute to the fight against the COVID-19. Such a spirit of solidarity became Taiwan's guarantee to success. However, the race is not over yet. So far, we have only concluded the first half, and in the second half, we need to work with like-minded countries to control the pandemic. Virus knows no border, and no country could fight the novel coronavirus on its own. It is critical for Taiwan to be included in the World Health Assembly and all the technical meetings in order to share the most updated information and work together with other countries to address global challenges. I highly appreciated that the US has called on all nations to support Taiwan, and I especially want to thank Secretary A札爾 for championing for Taiwan's inclusion in the World Health Assembly. Today, we have a lot of alumni of the US CDC EIS training program, public health graduate students, and experts gathered here. I know all of you are looking forward to Secretary's remark. So, without further ado, please join me to welcome U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary, Mr. Alex A札爾.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming me here to National Taiwan University, and thank you to everybody I have met so far for welcoming me so warmly. It is an honor to be here in Taiwan as a representative of the American people and to bring greetings from a great friend of Taiwan, President Donald J. Trump. It is also an honor to be here at National Taiwan University, an institution that stands for so much of what has made Taiwan great, including your industrial and scientific prowess and your spirit of open inquiry that have made you free and prosperous. I want to offer special thanks to several leaders of Taiwan and representatives of this success here today. Minister Chen, Professor Chen, Taiwan's former vice president, the vice president of National Taiwan University, Dr. Zhang, Dean Zheng of National Taiwan University's College of Public Health, and former Dean John here at the college as well. I'm also grateful to have Brent Christensen, director of the American Institute in Taiwan here, and thank him for what he has done with Taiwan's leaders to deepen our friendship. Taiwan is a democratic success story, a reliable partner, and a force for good in the world. Taiwan's vibrant democracy and thriving free market economy have made it a shining star in the Indo-Pacific and a treasured friend of the United States. We could not be prouder that Taiwan is now one of the United States' 10 largest trading partners, and our largest trading partner on a per capita basis out of that group after Canada and Mexico. We expect this economic relationship to deepen further in the coming years, It may be rather difficult for Taiwan to move up past Canada and Mexico, given that we are separated by thousands of miles of ocean rather than a land border. But for Taiwan, I would say that anything is possible. Today, I want to recognize another way in which Taiwan has distinguished itself among its peers and neighbors. Its world-leading public health capabilities, and specifically its successful work to combat COVID-19 within and beyond its own borders. Before I do so, however, it is appropriate to acknowledge the loss of one of Taiwan's great heroes, someone who laid the groundwork for many of the successes I will discuss today, your former president, Lee Teng-hui. President Lee is not only one of the great men in Taiwan's history, but in the broader history of Asia and the world's march toward democracy. He had a great love for the United States, having earned his doctorate at Cornell University. President Lee's legacy goes beyond just political freedom. It has had a very tangible effect on the lives of people here in Taiwan and around the world today. The democratic legacy he built has made Taiwan a leader not only in freedom and economic growth, but also in global health. The United States believes these accomplishments are inextricable from each other, that our shared model of democracy and transparency is essential to keeping our people safe from the health threats of today and tomorrow. Taiwan's success is especially notable because of the challenges it has faced in gaining recognition for this work on the world stage. Taiwan is a model for the world in so many respects. Yet political bullying has kept it from being able to fully share its successes and develop relationships that would all make us healthier, wealthier, and safer. Certainly, Taiwan's success in combating COVID-19 speaks for itself. Even with a population of more than 23 million, Taiwan has had fewer than 500 cases, one of the lowest case rates in the world. Taiwan's early and decisive implementation of border screening has allowed you to identify the vast majority of imported cases and avoid substantial community spread. Through the work of Taiwan CDC, you have shared information freely and rapidly, enlisting the cooperation of the public to track and contain the virus more effectively than just about anywhere else in the world. Taiwan's work on contact tracing in particular has set the standard for the world. Like its neighbors in East Asia, Taiwan has used technology like cell phone locations to assist with tracing contacts of known COVID-19 cases. You have added your own entrepreneurial flavor too, by allowing crowdsourced, democratic solutions devised by individuals to flourish through fora like V-Taiwan. Among the many benefits of Taiwan's successful response to the virus has been the fact that Taiwan has not had to give up its love for sports. I understand that Taiwan's baseball league was able to start games this spring with a delay of only 3 weeks. Unfortunately, the United States has just begun our baseball season, with our opening day coming just a couple of weeks ago. There's one silver lining to that delay for fans from my current workplace in Washington, D.C. Our Washington Nationals, the one-time home of Taiwan's Wang Zhenming, had an extra several months to relish their status as World Series champions before starting the defense of their title this summer. Taiwan's success in combating the virus has not only saved lives and kept baseball going, as important as that is. Taiwan has used its success and its wealth to aid others around the world in their response to. That includes the Pacific Island nations with which Taiwan has developed such a strong relationship, based on freedom, good governance, and mutual respect, sending supplies and direct technical assistance to help these states control their own epidemics. I want to recognize those representatives of the Pacific Island nations here today, ambassadors from the Marshall Islands, Nauru, Palau, and Tuvalu. I want to thank all of you for the close relationship you have fostered with Taiwan and your willingness to speak up for Taiwan in international fora. The Taiwan model of excellence in combating the virus has been obvious to us all. Taiwan's approach to combating the virus through openness, transparency, and cooperation stands in stark contrast to the country where the virus began. The Chinese Communist Party has had the chance to warn the world and work with the world on battling the virus, but they chose not to, and the costs of that choice mount higher every day. As the virus emerged, the People's Republic of China did not live up to the binding obligations it had under the international health regulations, betraying the cooperative spirit we need for global health. This came as little surprise to Taiwan, which experienced the consequences of Beijing's cover-up of SARS in 2003, costing dozens of lives in Taiwan and dealing serious disruption to the whole region's economy. I believe it is no exaggeration to say that if this virus had emerged in a place like Taiwan or the United States, it might have been snuffed out easily, rapidly reported to public health authorities who would have shared what they knew with health professionals and with the general public. Instead, Beijing appears to have resisted information sharing, muzzling doctors who spoke out, and hobbling the world's ability to respond. I can attest to this personally. The same week the virus was finally reported, and before any cases had been confirmed outside China, U.S. CDC Director Robert Redfield spoke frequently with his counterpart in the PRC about the outbreak. He repeatedly offered CDC's assistance to the PRC to understand the disease and to assist in response efforts. Yet, it took until mid-February, weeks after the virus had spread well beyond China's borders, for Beijing to admit a team of international experts to assist with the investigation, while claiming that the U.S. had been doing nothing to help. Taiwan presents a strong counterpoint. Your slogans for foreign assistance during COVID-19 have been, Taiwan can help and Taiwan is helping. Sadly, for political reasons, some don't want Taiwan to help, even when it costs lives. That is the unmistakable message from Beijing in the way it has recently dealt with the World Health Organization. From 2008 through 2016, Taiwan was able to participate in the World Health Assembly, the annual meeting of the WHO, as an observer. But in 2016, as all of you know, Taiwan held free and fair elections, leading to the inauguration of President Tsai. The following year, because of that political development, Beijing changed its tune on who ought to be part of a public health conversation. Taiwan was not invited as an observer to the 2017 WHA, and it has not been invited since, even in the midst of a global pandemic with so many lives at stake. Representing the United States, I have spoken out against this decision at each WHA that I have attended. This spring, we issued our first joint statement with Taiwan on the issue, highlighting how much more illogical and counterproductive this decision has become during a global pandemic. This behavior is in keeping with Beijing's approach to the WHO and other international organizations. The influence of the PRC far outweighs its investment in this public health institution, and it uses influence not to advance public health objectives, but its own narrow political interests. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, for instance, Beijing has lobbied against the investigations and reforms desperately needed to make the WHO a more effective institution. Taiwan's exclusion from the WHO is especially puzzling when its contributions to global health began long before the COVID-19 pandemic. The United States and Taiwan have both been strong advocates of global health security and the international health regulations. An essential piece of this work is engaging in a joint external evaluation to assess public health capabilities. Taiwan became the 8th jurisdiction to publish results from its joint external evaluation in 2016 by engaging the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security as its evaluator. This is a remarkable and meaningful commitment on Taiwan's behalf and helps to cement Taiwan's status as one of the world's leaders on global health security. I want to recognize the work of Professor Chen in making this assessment possible. The Indo-Pacific region and the whole world are safer because of Taiwan's commitment to this public health work. At other times, Taiwan has offered to make contributions to global health, only to have been rebuffed. In the spring of 2018, for instance, the World Health Organization put out an urgent call for funding to respond to an Ebola outbreak in the Western Democratic Republic of the Congo. Taiwan offered $1 million for this important fight, but the political bullying over Taiwan's status at the WHO ended up making this donation impossible. Taiwan's global health efforts have continued during the pandemic. That includes engaging with experts from my department and the health departments of Japan and Australia to strategize on the COVID-19 response through our joint global cooperation and training framework, which celebrates its 5th anniversary this year. The US, CDC, and Taiwan enjoyed an extraordinarily close relationship, working for over 15 years in areas as diverse as influenza chronic diseases, injury prevention, healthcare infection prevention and control, vaccine confidence, and foodborne illness. We worked especially closely with Taiwan during the 2003 SARS outbreak. The world has now experienced 2 serious viruses that have emerged from China in the past 2 decades, SARS and COVID-19. The issue is not which country is the source. The issue is how that country responds. There is very little about diplomacy that is simple. But when it comes to health, the expectations of the world community are quite common sense. You can't get anywhere without transparency. How can the world possibly work together to prevent, contain, and combat viruses unless we're willing to share information about these threats with each other? How could a doctor cure a patient without the patient disclosing his symptoms? How could doctors ever learn to treat a virus unless other doctors can honestly share their experiences? We have had successful cooperation and engagement with the PRC on a few issues, including on some areas in health. But on the most important health challenge of this century, genuine cooperation was lacking. I'm so pleased to be here today to thank Taiwan for setting a positive example and for choosing enthusiastically to be a part of the global health community. Your contributions have never been more appreciated than they are today. In these trying times, the United States knows that we will always have a friend in Taiwan, and we will not shy away from telling the rest of the world that they can rely on Taiwan too. Thank you all for inviting me here today, and thank you for your warm welcome to Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you for your attendance. Please remain seated while our guests depart. 谢谢大家参加此次的演讲，请大家仍旧坐，恭送贵宾离开。
就